Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. You get a salute. Tell you what, why not? You get a double salute. That's something you really only get here. That's the advantage of tuning in to this show, The Weekly Spinner Rack. And I'm your host, Chris. Tonight we are going to talk about some interesting comic book news. And while I do have news about stuff like Marvel and DC, indies, comic conventions and stuff, I've got a lot of stuff about manga. And I also have some manga to review today that's pretty interesting. Look at that. Superman versus Meshi. Superman getting Japanese meals. But no, we have some really interesting comics to review this week. One of them I'll say was very hard to find. But let's do some quick shout outs. I'm just clicking names as they fly past me on the screen. Yeah, don't forget to hit like. Always appreciate that. Grateful to have you all here. Lovely. It's going to be a good one. Let's see. So, since I just mentioned manga and everything, I'll give you guys a small update. I will still be doing the live show next Monday. And then shortly after that, I'm taking my somewhat extended trip to Japan. But if I can, I will still do a live stream. I think I can. I would be doing it more on like Sunday afternoon, I think, to try to line it up with this. So it all depends on, what my wife and I are doing. But I'll try to do that. I'm going to try to put together some travel vlog stuff, and I've decided on the episode I'm going to make when I go there. I always make an episode when I go to Japan. I've done like One Piece. I've done Akira. Done something else that it isn't coming to me right now. But I am going to do a bit of a deep dive into the career of Master Osamu Tezuka, the godfather of manga. Now, I made a very early episode on comic tropes about Astro Boy, but there's my show has evolved, and I've got stuff that I'd love to say, and I'm going to go to some locations that are important to Master Tezuka's career. So I think that'll be fun. Victor asks, what cities am I visiting? Specifically Tokyo and Osaka. Might take a day to go to Kyoto. And we're going to rent a car and go a little off the beaten path for a few days. Go to like an onsen. So we're going to see. Yep. Those colors indicate that I'm the Joker, or do they indicate that I'm Paste Pot Pete? Anyway, yeah, I'm going to go conquer New Japan Pro Wrestling. On one of my visits, I went to the New Japan Pro Wrestling store, which is a small but really nice place in Tokyo, and has some wrestling history to it. It was really beautiful. Oh, I'm so glad you got to see the first Slam Dunk, Joe. It's really a great movie. I really did enjoy it. You have an animation cell from Blackjack. That's amazing. It's amazing how many first things Tezuka did. Really popularized a lot of genres of manga, including shoujo, which is basically aimed at young girls. Also a lot that he did first in animation. Just amazing. Yes, we do. We will meet up, Daniel. I'll figure it out. But anyway, yeah, so I'm looking to do that, and we'll see what else. But I'll try to do some travel vlogs, maybe just going to some of the nice comic book stores there, like I don't know, Nakano Broadway has tons of nice Mandarake stores, and you're not wrong, Tit Goblin. Osamu Tezuka's last words were recorded, and he was dying of a cancer, and he was in the hospital, and he was drawing, and the nurse took away his tools, and he was like, "No, please let me keep drawing." That was his last words. He loved working. And by the way, not everybody remembers this. He was also a doctor, and he was breaking into manga at the same time that he was completing his medical degree. He was a medical doctor, kind of like Dr. Ken over here. He's an actor that was legit a doctor. Just amazing. really impressive individual, really, really positive individual, smart and creative. Yeah. Mm. Let's see. Yes, the Baltimore Comic-Con was this weekend. Ironically, it was also the same weekend as Small Press Expo, which is also in Maryland. Not sure that that's fantastic timing, and I will say that there's a slightly different audience there between, small press indie focus and a little bit more of a mainstream feel to Baltimore Comic-Con, but they're not far apart and physically and definitely both for comics. So yeah, I'm glad you got to meet so many great creators, CMAC. That's really awesome. When I lived in Northern Virginia, I loved going to Baltimore Comic Con and SPX. Those are two fantastic conventions that I really, really loved going to. I think I always had the most fun at SPX of any convention I went to because of its intimacy. But Baltimore, for being a pretty good sized convention, has always done a great job at keeping the focus on the comics as compared to sort of all the pop culture around it. I'm always impressed with that. Thank you for the super chat. That really helps right now, Larry. I recently watched Robot Carnival. Yeah, I saw that. Wow. I saw that when I was a teenager, is all I can say. Like, I was pretty young. It was a long, long time ago. A lot of different art styles. Very impressive. Very impressive. The Small Press Expo has always been in Bethesda, Maryland. Yeah, Bethesda, Maryland. But make sure to eat some butaman at 551 Horai in Osaka. Okay, I'll try to keep that in mind. I appreciate recommendations. Yeah, that's right. George Miller was also a doctor before film. Just amazing. So yeah, thank you for the super chat, Larry. I gotta admit, I'm looking forward to my trip, which I had booked quite a long time ago, but I'm just like realizing that various medical bills have stacked up, and I'm just really stressed out and depressed these days. But you know what? This is a good distraction. I think we've had enough preamble. Let's get into the show. Let me add something here. Look at that. Once again, just nailed the thumbnail, right? Like, oh, I'm so concerned about this. Can you believe this? I've been to a cat cafe in Tokyo. Very fun. There's lots of them, but yes, I have been. Very, very fun. Adorable stuff. But we've got some news to get into. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's get into some weird, wild, wacky stuff. I know you kids love the Johnny Carson impressions. All right, let's start off with some mainstream Marvel news. I thought this sounded fun. We're gonna have a story where Marvel Spidey meets Game Spidey. Let's get into that. SpiderMan Unlimited is a new series that's available exclusively on the Marvel app, and they've got a 12-part story exclusive to it. It comes out weekly every Tuesday. And yeah, to be specific, we've got the 616 Spider-Man going up against the Sony video game version of Spider-Man. There are some interesting parallels and differences because, of course, it's all Spider-Man, but the video games took some turns. He's still in a healthy relationship with Mary Jane in the video games. He also lost Aunt May in the video games, kind of like they did in the live action movies. So there are some interesting parallels there and differences that I think should be fun to explore. And the writer said that he's going to do an old-fashioned thing where there's a misunderstanding and the two heroes battle it out only to team up against a larger threat. Look, I think that that's a trope for a reason. It generally works very well. Thank you, Darian. Really lovely to have you here. Let's see. So anyway, this is a vertical comic. It's written by Christos Gage, written tons of comics. Art by somebody named Simone Buenafantino. I hope I pronounced that right. Not super familiar, but the pages I looked at definitely did look good. I don't have Marvel Unlimited app right now, but if I did, I'd want to read this. I think it looks like a lot of fun. I can understand wanting to move away from multiverse. It's definitely been done to death with how much we have, Flash, Spider-Verse, everything, everywhere, all at once. It is a lot. At the same time, it is sort of a part of superhero comics, at least Marvel and DC stuff, for there to be other versions of the characters out there and to encounter one another. It doesn't necessarily have to always be a big, epic multiverse story. Great addition here, Owen. Christos Gage also worked on the video game, so very familiar with the characters. Oh yeah, and the things that I banged out, I also think that Spider-Verse is pretty fantastic. But Everything Everywhere All at Once, I love. It just has been done a lot lately, and I think that we need a break. I'm not going to disagree with any of that. Here's another piece of news. Moving right on. Drawing Desk. I wasn't familiar with this app, but apparently it's been out there for a while. Like it says here, the Drawing Desk app has teamed up with Marvel. They've created over 50 art lessons where it's all based on drawing, your favorite Marvel superheroes. I looked into it. It is a free app. It has paid content options, but I don't think all the Marvel stuff is paid. You can get some of that free. And essentially, it's just lessons. It's designed to teach you how to draw digitally specifically. Every aspect of that, there's a lot to learn from, pen sensitivity to line weight to coloring, all sorts of stuff. Looking into it, it looks like the lessons have both guided lessons telling you step 1, step 2, step 3, but also a function that allows you to skip steps that you're either not interested in or you find redundant, things like that. So it can you can just say, do it for me, and it'll jump ahead. I think if you're interested in drawing, that this could potentially be a fun way to do it. I wouldn't say it's the best way to do it, but it could be a fun way to do it. We'll see. We'll see. You would have loved this as a kid. I think I would have too. Alan Moore used a multiverse in his Captain Britain work, and that's where he named the main Marvel Universe 616, implying that it's just another one. But he didn't create the concept of that. For comics, you really have to go back to A Flash of Two Worlds. Where Golden Age and Silver Age Flash actually meet. So that was the first multiverse story. And then DC did a lot of did annual crisis events where the Justice League would team up with the Justice Society. They were each from parallel worlds, but they'd have a yearly adventure together. And then it all, of course, culminated in Crisis on Infinite Earths. So yeah, there's a lot going on with DC in the multiverse for many, many years. Yes, Mike, exactly. You're like, draw my backgrounds. Well, hey, there literally are artists in comics that have had that done, right? I mean, Dave Sim had Gerard for Cerebus, and I'm sure there's plenty of manga artists that really have their assistants do almost the entire backgrounds. It really depends on the person. Oh, that's a great book, How to Draw the Marvel Way. It really is a nice book. It's good. Anyway, let's see what else we got. Any more news? I find this charming. Chris Claremont is returning to Wolverine for Wolverine's 50th anniversary. Of course, Claremont wrote the X-Men for 16 years, a streak that no one else has beaten, and really, developed who Wolverine was. There have been plenty of other writers who've contributed important elements. I think Larry Hama is one that gets overlooked sometimes, but Claremont did a lot of that early heavy lifting in establishing Wolverine. So he's going to do something that kind of honors the character. Hopefully this is fun. He's doing a sequel to the famous Uncanny X-Men issue 268. And if you haven't read it, you've probably at least seen the cover. An early issue drawn by Jim Lee. It features Wolverine, Captain America, and Black Widow posing with Madripoor in the background. It was a one-shot story that took place back in World War II with Captain America and Wolverine teaming up to rescue a young Natacha. So, he's doing a sequel to that famous story. So it's going to be a 5-issue story this time. Feature Wolverine teaming up with Black Widow and Captain America again during World War II in the streets of Madripoor, and they're tracking down a planet-destroying weapon that I guess everybody's after, including the Hand. So there will be ninjas. There will be ninjas, which means we can get lots of snicks, as Finn calls them. So let's see. Gray suit, short hair, Black Widow is such an underrated costume. That was like the main costume when I was reading Avengers the most. So yeah, that was the look I initially knew. She's had a bunch of different looks, but I do like the gray. Just because everybody wears like a complete black costume, I like it. No time travel, just a story set in the past. Yeah, Natacha is old. I remember in issue 268, Jubilee commenting, she's like, she was alive during World War II, and that was in the 90s, but it was still like, 40 years past. You were like implying that Natacha was at least in her late 50s, if not 60s. Pretty crazy. It doesn't quite make as much sense now because so much more time has passed without the characters really aging, but you're just not supposed to think about it that much, to be honest. You're just not. How old is Nat? They're probably going to have to retcon it at some point to say that she, I don't know, takes the SHIELD aging formula or something like that. No, they've never established that there's any reason for her to be as old as she is. I'll do you one better, Mr. C.M. Hawkins. Snicked and Thwip are good. How about Bamf? And by the way, isn't that wild how Marvel has 3 iconic sound effects specific to a character that we all recognize if we've read comics for a while? There's really not any sort of sound effect I can think of that's iconic for a DC character. Even though Batman and Superman have been around for a long time, it's not like the Batarang or Heat Vision has a very specific sound that nobody else uses, Let's see. Yeah, Daredevil gets fap when he catches his stick. That's what I was saying. Maybe she's taken the Infinity formula. Like they could say that if they needed to. It's best not to think about it. Hulk says smash. He doesn't always get the sound effect smash, and other people would use smash. I would say that's the closest, Makoto, and that's dialogue as compared to sound effect. But you're right. Like Booster Gold and Ted Kord both do the bwahaha. Jamilin, thank you. You thought of one. Motherbox. Motherbox does make the ping sound. So I guess Jack Kirby introduced one iconic sound to DC. You are right. Yeah, Krakakum is good. But a sound effect like that also I associate sometimes with Thor, especially with John Workman's incredible lettering. That Walt Simonson run, folks, that lettering looks so good with Walt Simonson's art. It's so damn good. And that's a good sound effect, but it's not like it's only his, right? Like Thwip is only used by Spider-Man. Snicked is only used by Wolverine. That's what I'm talking about. But the ping is kind of close to something that is only used by Motherbox. I mean, ping could be used by something else. That's a good point. Yeah, the TARDIS has like Vorp. It's usually VWOORP. And Godzilla is usually Ski-Ronk, like SK, like maybe R, but EEONK, Skrionk. Shazam is iconic dialogue, but not necessarily a sound effect. That's all I'm saying is that like Bamf
snikt, and thwip, I would call pretty iconic sound effects that we associate with the characters. There are catchphrases, there are sound effects that some people use more than others, but like those are things that only those characters use. Anyway, we went off on a tangent there, but that's the fun of doing this. Let's get back to this Wolverine news. What else? So the art is by somebody named Edgar Salazar. I have to admit, not super familiar with Edgar Salazar. The covers, I am. Philip Tan is great. And this is going to come out in February. 50 years for Wolverine. 50 years. That's mind-blowing that he's been around that long. Because to me, Wolverine is like, he's hip and new and cool. But he outdates me. He's older than me. Here's some MCU news. Well, maybe more of a rumor, actually. We already sort of knew that they were delaying Ironheart. We might know part of why they're delaying that one. This is according to Can We Get Some Toast, an industry scoopster that tends to be pretty accurate. And they posted this week that even though Ironheart has finished shooting and was set to release now in fall, it's been taken off of Marvel's release schedule entirely. They haven't given it a date. Sources say it's to bring it closer to Armor Wars release. I've been told Marvel wants to go full steam ahead with Armor Wars production. They should, they can still do Iron Man type movies with Rhodey and Ironheart, but they should probably get on that before people forget about that kind of stuff. So we do know that Ironheart is already filmed, and that the gist of the story is that it's dealing with technology versus magic. The main enemy in it is the Hood, Parker Robbins, who has mystical abilities, and probably Mephisto is going to be a part of that. Anyway, I guess I just said that. Yeah, they want to line them up together. It makes sense. We'll see. A-Man's YouTube app decided that now is the perfect time to update. Thanks, YouTube. Appreciate it. They have been delaying a lot of projects. A lot of it is because of the strikes. In a way, they're in a decent place in that, like, the previous Disney president was pushing forward too much MCU content, and they're backing off on that. But it did give us a lot in the pipeline, so that even with these delays, we should get some like MCU content without huge delays between all of the projects, most likely, which, depends on how much you like MCU stuff. I like it generally. I do like the MCU. But anyway, that's all I got to say about that. What else we got? Cats yelling. This is like something that came out this week, but for like an old show. Because, of course, Netflix built up to the Defenders with Daredevil, Iron Fist, Jessica Jones, and Luke Cage. Jeez. Luke Cage was one of the better ones. And apparently they were at some point going to do a sequel to that. So Mark Jobst was a director on both Daredevil and Luke Cage, and he was interviewed by The Hollywood Reporter, not about Marvel specifically, about a bunch of stuff. He just happened to talk about it. And he revealed that before Marvel Studios absorbed Marvel TV, because those were two separate divisions for quite a long time. That's why things like the Netflix shows, Cloak and Dagger, Runaways, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., they were all produced under the TV division, and it was sort of a one-way street where they all acknowledged the MCU, but the movies weren't really acknowledging it backwards. And now it's, much closer to one thing. But yeah, the plan was to have a sequel to The Defenders. Here's what he said. He says, quote, "Yes, absolutely. There was some relationship building in the episode, starting with the boxing ring training. That culminated in Colleen Wing here, deliberately leading Misty Knight, into a fight to get over her self-pity, knowing that Misty would rise to it, which she did. The two of them going off into the smoke," and I don't know what that means, "and Boca, as a definite twosome was a nod to the potential of Daughters of the Dragon. So that was something they were given some serious thought to. I really wish that had happened. I especially liked the actress who played Colleen Wing. Misty Knight was good. You know, they gave her the bionic arm and everything. It was a good cast, and that's like, it's somewhat unique to have superhero partners. There aren't lots of partnerships. There are sidekicks. Batman and Robin is a famous superhero and sidekick. That's pretty famous. But partners like on an equal playing field, you've got Iron Fist and Luke Cage. You've got the Daughters of the Dragon, Colleen Wing and Misty Knight. There's not a lot of other partnerships out there. But I like that. I like the idea of a partnership of two superheroes that are just friends and really trust each other. Not a team, etc. Oh, camera light blur. Thank you. Thank you for the explanation. The courtroom drama all rise. Well, good. I'm glad that they're working. That's nice. Yeah, that's true. Booster Gold and Blue Beetle are and sort of so is Fire and Ice, actually. I'll be talking about that today. So there's a couple out there. I like them. I like partnerships. Cloak and Dagger is definitely a famous one. Definitely. But yeah, I think either Daughters of the Dragon or Heroes for Hire would have been good. Could have had all four of them, you know, including Iron Fist and Luke Cage, as well as these two, or could have just been either pair. I would be okay with any of them. I think they all would have worked. We'll see what happens. You know, Daredevil is coming back. We know that Frank, who plays Frank Castle? I'm sorry, the guy that was Shane on The Walking Dead. All of a sudden, I'm blanking on his name, but we know that he's coming back as Punisher, and we strongly suspect the actress playing Jessica Jones is coming back. But anyway. So let's talk about one thing that I had in the thumbnail, and this isn't necessarily super specific to comics. It's a little bit tangential, but it involves, you know, Spy Family, which you know, thank you, John Bernthal is who I was thinking of. Thanks everybody. So yeah, it's just setting an interesting precedent. I can see each side, but I do think it's a little messed up. Let me break this story down for you, just the highlights. So first of all, this week, Shinobu Yoshida, 53-year-old Japanese YouTuber, was sentenced to 2 years in jail over there in Japan, as well as paying a $1 million fine. If my math is right, that's somewhere between $6,000 and $7,000. I think, yeah. Anyway, yeah, going to jail over YouTube stuff. Here's what Yoshida did that Japan was not okay with. Showed gameplay footage of Steins Gate. That's basically a visual novel, and Yoshida showed how it ends, like gave away the ending. Also did summaries of Spy Family episodes, the anime. In Japan, it's, you know, it's against the law to monetize copyrighted works that aren't yours, which is kind of the rule everywhere, but they took it pretty seriously, obviously. You know, I don't think that Yoshida would have gone to jail. Probably would have gotten a cease and desist, might have had to pay a fine. I don't think would have gone to jail if the videos simply weren't monetized, but they were. I don't think it's abnormal for people to do Let's Plays and give away the end of a game or summaries of things. But you have to know what the rules are. Obviously, I do stuff where I review content from Japan. And I've always been very careful because I am aware that they take this very seriously over there in some ways. And in other ways, they're okay with it. For instance, you can make comics based on existing intellectual property over there. They call it like dojishin. fan stuff, and as long as you're not making much money off of it, they're okay with it. You can literally buy it in comic book stores. They have comic conventions just for it. A lot of the publishers will look the other way because it's sort of where somebody can get some practice in and then potentially become a pro. So it's almost like a minor league, you could say it, making fan stuff. So they're okay with that. But giving away the end of stuff on YouTube, not okay with. When I have done my episodes, I'm always very careful that I'm not really giving everything away about a story, and that I'm really couching it in criticism and analysis. If it was just a summary, and you know that there are YouTube channels out there that just summarize Marvel and DC stuff. If they did that for manga, they'd get in a lot of trouble in Japan, but they probably live here and in other countries. Oh, thanks for doing a logic check. I guess my math was right. Between $6,000 and $7,000, obviously a lot closer to $7,000. So, I just got to say though, 2 years in jail sounds really harsh to me for giving away this stuff. I mean, I think that these are things that people can look up, and that it's. I don't know if this sets a precedent that's really going to intimidate that many people from doing it. It might stop some people in Japan from doing it, but I don't think it's going to stop somebody in, say, like Finland or Australia or the United States from doing it. I've already tried to be as careful as I can. I mean, but I was curious, I'm like, am I crossing a line? But that's why when I did my Akira episode, I literally recorded it in YouTube studios there in Japan, which you have to have meetings and talk about what kind of an episode, what kind of content you're making. And then they have to review it and approve it before you publish it. So I knew that, like, if I did that, I'd go, well, guess what? YouTube themselves approved this content on several levels. And I knew that that would sort of like protect me if I ever wanted to do other analysis on manga. But I would never do just a recap. It's too dangerous, I think. I think you're probably right that it's probably only intended to be a lesson to people in Japan. But can you imagine at age 53 going to jail? I don't know. I also read that he got a 5-year suspended sentence, and I'm not sure if that means like 5 years were waived or is under probation after the 2 years or what. I don't really know. Let's see. No, it's off topic, but you had a sponsor that was a cereal. Oh yeah. I like that cereal. Hold on. What was it called? I'm looking into getting into healthier cereals. Somebody's going to think of it before I do. What is the name of that cereal? Magic Spoon. It actually tastes really good in my opinion. It's a little more expensive, but it's actually not bad for you. It's healthy in a lot of ways. So yeah, to answer your question. Thanks everyone. Your answer. If it wasn't for like the little delay, you would have beaten me to thinking of it. If he commits another crime, he has to do 5 years. Got it. Thank you for explaining it. That does make sense. Yeah, you're right. The laws in every country are different. So, I think that Japan is a fantastic place. I love visiting there. I feel very safe there. I always have a fantastic time. I love visiting a lot of places. England, Canada. They speak the language, so it's very easy to visit these places. At the same time, they have different court systems. So you really need to be careful. Suspended means they let you free, but if you are brought before the court, even for something unrelated, the sentence can be activated fully. Yikes. So he's got a 5-year sentence hanging over him after he gets out. Yikes. I would love to visit Australia. Hopefully in the next couple of years I can. That would be lovely. Are there cereal mascot comics? Probably. There have been mascot comics for things like Kool-Aid. So it's possible. I can't think of one off the top of my head. I don't know exactly where the cat is, but yeah. Anyway, just pretty wild news. Yeah. So yeah, like I think I already said this, but specifically Yoshida's videos were showing the end of a visual novel and they were summarizing episodes. So basically what the court argued and succeeded was that he created a viable alternative for people to not buy these products because they could get the same experience this way. And I think that that's a fair argument. I think that, there's no question that Yoshida admitted that he did this. So it was kind of an easy case in that sense. It's just that I think that the penalty is very harsh. I could understand a bigger fine than what he got, but going to jail is just crazy. Anyway. So Dan Slott, pretty famous for writing at Marvel for quite a long time now, but has written for other companies, and he's a huge Doctor Who fan. And he got hired by Titan Comics to write the Doctor Who book. But it's arriving much later and much more expensive. Let's get into it. So back in 2021, Titan Comics announced that Dan Slott was going to be writing several Doctor Who one-shots. The first one was going to be with the 10th Doctor and Martha, art by Christopher Jones, cover by Adam Hughes. And originally, this was solicited back in April to come out in April of 2022 with a $7.99 cover price. $8 for this book. Well, it's finally coming out. Don't know why it's been delayed so long, but it's finally coming out this October, so the end of 2023, as a hardcover now. I will point that out, but it's for $17.99, so it went up $10 since it was originally solicited. And I just am noting that it's a 58-page story, so it's like 3 times the story of like a monthly comic, but still, this is a lot. I did see that you can get this on Amazon UK for about £6.99, but that doesn't include shipping. So, yikes! That just seems strange, to originally solicit the story for basically $8 and then come out like a year and a half later and it's $18. That seems like quite a price hike for what you're getting. Boy, even for like 58 pages, I think 18 is really pushing people's budget. It's the equivalent of like 3 comics. I think even at the high end, we'd call that 15. You make it a hardcover, I guess, and it's a few bucks more. That it just seems pretty high to me. I don't know why you'd switch it to hardcover either. Like initially put it out as a soft cover so that you can have it a little cheaper. But wow. I just was really surprised at the prices, to be honest. $17.99 is a bit much. Inflation, sure, but inflation over a year and a half, $10, it's a lot. 4th Doctor is my first Doctor. Yeah, I think that something like up to 12 is still pretty fair for 58 pages. I do. We'll see. There's a lot of manga volumes that are cheaper, but of course they're also going to be in black and white, which is a factor. I think we should factor that in. But yeah, they don't expect to sell many outside of the UK? Really? Boy, I think Doctor Who is pretty popular worldwide. I think Doctor Who's pretty popular here in America now. Yeah, I have a great hardcover of the Dave Gibbons era of drawing the 4th Doctor. It's a really good book. It's a really nice book. Sorry, this is good. $78 there in Canada. Yeah, I agree. I think that you could definitely see the influence of Doctor Who on his Silver Surfer series, but that's a great series too. That Dan Slott and Mike Allred and Laura Allred on Silver Surfer is really good. Really good. I love Doctor Who, but $18 is more than I'd be okay spending, to be honest. I don't know. I don't know how well Doctor Who sells, to be honest. Hey, kitty. Oh, yeah? You want to say hello? You just want to shout? Why don't you come over? I think the cat wants food. Sorry. British economy is doing absolute shit right now, so maybe that's why they increased the price. Yeah, I guess so. Maybe they didn't have a choice. I don't know. I'm trying to think. I guess my favorite Doctor, if I'm really being honest with myself, probably is the 10th Doctor, David Tennant. I really like him, but there's a bunch of Doctors I love. There really are. I love it. I agree. I think that the Doctor Who's popularity is only going to increase once these new episodes arrive. Not too long on Disney Plus. We'll see. Oh yeah, I love Adam Hughes. Who doesn't like Adam Hughes? Adam Hughes is fantastic. I mean, pretty much only does covers now, but is really good at them and just a great artist. Great artist. There are going to be some Batman villain redesigns for the Batman City of Madness book, and I'm sort of showing some of those redesigns here. This book looks really interesting to me. So this is by Christian Ward. He's doing Batman City of Madness, and that's going to feature Batman going up against basically an evil version of himself that comes from Gotham's buried city. They call it the Gotham Down Below, which I guess has supposedly been guarded from allowing the people that live down there to come above by the Court of Owls. That's like the sort of background mythology. And Ward has redesigned both Talon, he's sort of the enforcer for the Court of Owls, as well as Two-Face. Like really looks raw and bloody, not as like sort of fake purpley. And it's also going to feature the dark version of Batman looking for a Robin up above. I think that there's three Batman stories coming out that I'm really looking forward to. Batman City of Madness by Christian Ward. There's Batman Off-World drawn by Doug Mahnke, and Batman Gargoyle of Gotham by Raphael Grandpa. I think all three of those look really interesting right now. I'm very hyped for City of Madness. I mean, an eldritch horror Batman that's a spiritual successor to Arkham Asylum, a serious house on a serious earth. Sign me up. It could be really good. Could be good. Talon looks kind of like Azrael. Yeah, that's fair. A little bit. Anyway. There were some pages that were shared this week officially by DC, and some of the full page stuff with Two-Face looked really interesting, like was really showing things from his point of view, where half of an apartment that he was in was very clean and organized and normal, and the other half was very chaotic, but it really looked good as artwork. It doesn't necessarily make 100% logical sense, but in the panel, it looked fantastic. So we'll see. I think that looks interesting. This is a pricey thing, but boy, does it look gorgeous. DC Comics, The Golden Age by the Folio Society. The Folio Society, if you're not aware, they produce high-end hardcover children's illustrated books. They've been doing that since 1947. They're based in London, produce absolutely gorgeous books, really, really high-end stuff. So they are teaming up with both DC Comics and the former editor-in-chief at DC, Jeanette Kahn. And she is selected and introduces 18 Golden Age stories that are being reprinted. All of the pages were scanned from the original comic book from the DC archive. They have a copy of each of their books there. And if you get a nice high-res scan, it means that the pages that are printed really look the same as, like, the old-fashioned newsprint, even though you can print it on much nicer paper, like it's like, thick and dark white and stuff, but like it will look the same. It will have that same fidelity, which I just think is a fantastic way to reproduce things if you can. Each of the stories is the first story of a famous superhero from the Golden Age. You know, of course, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, but Plastic Man, Hawkman, probably Green Lantern. There were tons of them. 18 stories, so it's pretty big. Action Comics #1 is like 63 pages alone, and they've reproduced all of that within this. So this is a big, thick, high-end book. Oh yeah, it is $260. So it is not for the faint of heart or the light of wallet. Not a cheap book, but certainly a really lovely presentation. And they do have plans to do more of specific things. I think the Silver Age they'll do, and then maybe some specific characters. But we shall see how it takes off. It's really expensive as hell. I have not seen how Dark Horse is handling the EC Comics reprints. Hopefully the coloring is faithful to those early newsprints. I'm pretty sure that it will be. No, not cheap at all. That's more expensive than the Doctor Who book. Yeah. You know what you're going in with this. You know, no shortcuts. No shortcuts. Yeah, well, you know, this is a pretty durable book. You could probably like fold it out and use it as a roof if you lived in an alley. I think it would probably hold up to rain for a couple months. So, you know, I would love something like this. I don't think that I'm ready to drop $260 on reprints, but it certainly is going to be a nice product for those that can afford it, which probably aren't many. Here's something that's probably more affordable and coming out a lot sooner. DC is making Trick or Treat variants. You can see a pair of them here, one for Wonder Woman, one for Titans. So they've announced that they're doing 8 of these, 8 variant covers leading up to Halloween. These will be coming out in October. All of these are illustrated by Chrissy Zullo Uminga. Really fun artist. I think Chrissy does some lovely stuff. Here are the titles that she's doing specifically: Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman, Poison Ivy, Nightwing, Harley Quinn, Birds of Prey, Titans. So, yeah, I thought some of you might find that nice. Yeah. So, yeah, just put that on people's radar. I don't get excited and buy every sort of variant out there, but I did think that these were pretty cute and unique. You know, it looks nice. It's something a little different, and it's definitely not phoned in or anything like that. That's nice. Good. Let's see. Whoops, I missed something. I love her art, but I don't buy variants generally, but might grab one of these. Yeah, if it was easy and it was like cover price, I would get one of these. Thank you, Sigma. Chris provides excellent comics and manga coverage and insight consistently. Genuine fan and promoter of comics. Please support him, subscribe, and like. That's very kind of you. Thank you for the support. I appreciate it. I love those mini-sized comic bundles. Oh, yeah, definitely. Cute. I like the different reactions on the Titans one. Nightwing is too scared to look. Chrissy doesn't just draw in her style. She's putting actual thought into, like, you know, the poses and reactions of these. Cyborg's totally into it. Yeah. I love the artwork. Do they have them in chromium? I did already go through the Spy Family story in a lot of detail. Yes, sorry. But you can always rewind. What else we got? DC's animated Crisis movie split into 3 parts. Well, I guess it's a pretty big story, isn't it? So the DC animated universe announced that they would be doing an adaptation of Crisis on Infinite Earths as an animated movie, you know, or original video animation. They announced that at San Diego Comic-Con. They're going to adapt the 85-86 12-issue maxi series. Well, animation director Mike Milo's resume was shared on Reddit. Is it accurate? Who knows, but it looked accurate. And it said that he will direct Crisis Parts 1, 2, and 3. That's the first time we're hearing that it would be in parts as compared to just being one thing. But it is a massive story. The plan is for this to show up in 2024, and it's completely separate, just to be clear, from the DCU continuity. But yeah, I think that generally people have pretty good responses to the DC animated universe movies. They seem to get pretty good reviews and response. Three movies. That's basically adapting about 4 comics per movie. That sounds about right, actually. Yeah, I think that could work. I don't think that this is a theatrical release, X. I'm pretty sure that this is all direct-to-video stuff. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think they'll rush the story, and there's probably, honestly, even when you do this, you can probably cut out a bunch, because a lot of it was sort of fan service at the time, just to make sure that they featured every character that they owned. And I don't think you necessarily need to do that for like a dedicated animated story. So there's probably some stuff they can cut out. Yeah. We don't have Kevin Conroy anymore, but there are some other good voice actors that have done Batman. So that is sad, but we'll see what happens. Any word if they are using the DC animated versions we already have? Don't know. That would be interesting, though, wouldn't it? If they like did an animated version where we got to see sort of the old 90s Justice League Unlimited style that I'm like showing in this, as well as things like Batman Brave and the Bold and other animated sources like Super Friends, right? Like Super Friends from the 70s or something. That would be an interesting angle. I don't know. I don't know what Earth 2 is going to be. You know, it might just be an animated version of the comic. It might not play with animated history. It might not. But I do think that would be a fun thing to do. We'll see. I'm afraid I'm not familiar with Luis dos Santos. Is that somebody that's worked on a lot of the animated universe stuff? I'm not much of an expert on the DC animated universe, to be honest. I've seen a few things, but not lots. I hear a kitty back there. All right, not going to come see me. Batman Day. This Saturday is Batman Day. So, what's going on this year for 2023? Well, it's on the 16th. There's no real specific reason for it to be there. Generally, DC has just been choosing the 3rd Saturday in September the last couple of years. It isn't really like the specific day that anything happened. It's just his anniversary. It's just an anniversary. But we're going to celebrate Batman's anniversary, which, let me think this through. I want to say 84 years now, because I'm pretty sure it came out in... Yeah, I think it's 84 years this year. Anyway, didn't the Teen Titans Go movie do a multi-animated Universal crossover as part of its plot? Oh, I don't know. I didn't see that. I heard it's good. I heard it's funny. What else do we have, though, for Batman Day? So, first of all, DC is releasing some specific Batman comics that stores should have. Batman Catwoman, The Gotham War Prelude, Batman Day Special Edition #1, Batman and the Joker, The Deadly Duo #1, Batman Day Special Edition, Batman number 608, Batman Day Special Edition. This one is the one that looks interesting. These next two. Batman 89 hardcover collection. I've been meaning to get that. I like Joe Quinones' art. And Batman Gargoyle of Gotham #1, like Raphael Grandpa. So those are the two that I would be interested in out of that. But a lot of really fun stuff for comics. That's cool. A lot of famous stuff and recent stuff. So yeah, let's see.
The DC shop, if you go to DC's official web store, they're going to sell Batman 66 TV series sculpture, a limited edition Batmobile pin or pins, and they're going to have a new Batman the Animated Series bomber jacket. So if you've been looking for a bomber jacket emblazoned with Batman the Animated Series, finally, DC is stepping up. Yeah, it does look really interesting. Partnering with planters for those who want to get nuts. Let's get nuts. For Batman Day, one capital city each year should replace its police department with a fully equipped Batman and have him fight to save the city's water supply. Let's start with Flint, Michigan. I think that there's some supervillains that have been getting away for quite a few years. Anyway. And then there's one other thing, right? Oh, yeah. Some theaters will be screening the Christopher Nolan trilogy of Batman movies. I didn't see any in my area, but you might have better luck. I'm not sure. But you can just look that up. One Piece is definitely getting a boost of popularity thanks to the new live action show. And specifically, these are a bunch of actual completed eBay auctions. So, first of all, we've got the first volume of Weekly Shonen Jump that featured One Piece. That's from 1997. It sold for over $1,300. Quite a bit for a book that was probably like $4 when it came out, $3. The English version of Shonen Jump number 0 sold for probably over $100. They took best offer, but that was originally a free book. So whatever you made off that was good. And another one that was here is the first English printing of Volume 1. That went for over $200. So people definitely investing in some One Piece history. Out of them all, this is the one that makes the most sense for me. Like, you know, picking up the first Shonen Jump issue to feature it, but $1,300 is definitely a lot to pay for that. I have to imagine that it's not going to be cheap, but like that's a lot to pay. I guess just because it's from another country, but I bet you anything. If that's what I wanted to find, I bet I could find it for well less than $1,000. I bet I could find it for like, I don't know, 500. I'm just guessing. But it's just that there's a lot of copies of all of this stuff out there. And obviously, like, you know, it has stayed in print as far as Tankobon volumes. So it's kind of funny to me that there's this demand. But you know what? It's a valid part of collecting. I just thought it like gave us an indication of how popular One Piece is, at least for this week. And I've got some more news related to that. So they got some really big viewership numbers. And this is based purely on what Netflix is willing to share. But they share some shows, so we can at least compare it to other Netflix shows. They shared the viewing numbers for the first 4 days that the live action adaptation was up. They said 18.5 million views and over 140 million hours of watch time. Okay, so that's what it has. Sounds like a lot. Let's put it in perspective by comparing it to some other Netflix shows where they announced some numbers. For comparison, The Witcher Season 3, Part 1 got 73 million hours. So almost half of the 140 million hours of this One Piece. Schwarzenegger, he's still a pretty big name. Fubar got 88 million hours of watch time. The Night Agent definitely beat it. They got 168 hours of watch time in the first 4 days. So at least it just sort of puts things in perspective for what's popular. But that's definitely a lot of watch time. The show is very loyal to the manga. It rearranges some things to streamline it, but I thought it was still very loyal to everybody's origins and motivations and the key events that take place. Showrunner Stephen Maeda,
Talk to TV line this week, and he said that creator Eiichiro Oda had a specific mandate for no romance between shipmates. A lot of people have like, sort of, what's that called when you like sort of have a fan romance or something like that? Did they call that shipping? Oh, I guess they do. It's kind of a pun because of this being One Piece. But they said that a lot of fans really want Nami and Zoro to be in a relationship, and they do have chemistry. They do, but yeah, they didn't like put anybody in a relationship. Everything's platonic. They're friends. That's what the story is about. It's about friendship. I would say that that's one of the very important themes of One Piece is friendship. And I think that that's fair. Now, I've only watched the first episode, to be fair. But I've read the manga. I've watched a bunch of the anime, and I liked it. I'm just trying to get through more of the anime before I go back and sort of watch the TV show, because it's going to pass sort of where I am, I think, in the anime, and I just want to see that version first. Personally, I've just made that decision, and I'm having fun watching that with my wife. It seems good. I sincerely think that this is one of the better adaptations of manga that we have seen. We've had some of this discussion before, and people have thrown out some good observations of things that were well done. Battle Angel Alita, the Japanese version of Death Note. There are good live action adaptations, but there's also obviously a lot of bad ones. Anyway. Yeah, that's true. It's about family, making your own family. Mm-hmm. I've only basically read the East Blue storyline, the first big arc. I've read little bits of stuff that happened after, just to like get an idea of where things were going to see. I got a little burned out basically on that one. I like it. It was definitely, the manga was definitely a little sillier or intentionally funny compared to what I tend to love. But I say that, and I've really enjoyed things like Spy Family and Slam Dunk, which definitely have a lot of humor. So I don't know. I'll get back to it at some point. I will. I think a lot of people like it. I think that there's a really good chance that this is a show that will get a second season, just to be clear. And they spent a lot of money on it. But I think that like one thing I liked about it that wouldn't necessarily have to do with how loyal it is, I sincerely think that they shot really good action scenes. The action was clear and exciting. The fight scenes were really, really good. And I think that that's kind of important because this is an action show. Yeah. I recommend it ultimately. I do. So we've talked about Spy Family. We've talked about One Piece. There's still one more thing of manga that I will get to. But in the meantime, I've got some other things. Boom Studios has had really big success with Berserker. That's the book by Keanu Reeves and Matt Kint. Artwork in the original series by Ron Garney. Then Steve Scroce did a one-shot that I think was even better than the 12-part series. It's a decent comic. It's decent. I wouldn't call it exceptional, but it's decent. Anyway, Boom Studios announced this week that they're going to partner with IMG as their global licensing representative. It's sold very well. It makes sense that they need a licensing representative, especially because they're supposedly doing both an animated movie and a live action movie, potentially. I mean, you've got Keanu Reeves, so why wouldn't you? But the plans are to make things like apparel, make various clothes, toys and collectibles, food, they said food specifically, and location-based experiences. Don't know exactly what that would be, but I guess they're just covering all their bases. Let's see, have yet to read Berserker, hope to get around to it soon, and I'm intrigued to see how both the live action film and the anime versions go. I would say read the one shot by Steve Scroce, and if you really love that, give the series a try, but know that Steve Scroce's one shot is probably a little more fun than the overall series. Oh, I know, he's kept himself in really good shape. It's impressive to see how many actors
are still action stars easily into their 50s now. Like when I was a kid I will say that in the 1980s, if you were 50, you were considered old in it for an action star in a movie. You know, like you did not do I don't know. I don't know what to compare it to. I'm thinking of movies like what did Charles Bronson do? He had his Death Wish, the Death Wish series. He looked like old as dirt in that, but he was like in his 50s. And now you get like Indiana Jones with Harrison Ford 80. And the fact that he can do anything action related is kind of amazing. Yeah, in the 80s, exactly. I'm thinking of Clint Eastwood and Charles Bronson. They were like in their 40s and 50s, and they were like considered old men. And now you've got like, you know, like Robert Downey Jr. and Keanu Reeves doing Iron Man and John Wick, and they're treated as though they're like still in their prime. It's amazing. It's amazing. That is fair. People pointing out that people definitely drank and smoked more, and I think that does age you. I think that does age you. I think in general, a lot of actors are able to take better care of their health than they used to. I don't mean everybody in the world, but I think a lot of actors are smarter about how they, you know, take care of their health. Yeah, Donnie Yen is still like doing some really impressive stuff. But yeah, Berserker's interesting. I was a little surprised to hear this, but Kirkman and Somni announced that they're ending their series Firepower. Planned ending. So Skybound announced that issue 30 is going to be the final issue of Firepower. That will come out in December. It's going to be double-sized, and it will conclude the story. They had taken a small hiatus, and issue 25 just came out a couple months ago. But yeah, so not much longer. The story, I think, is likely to feature Owen Johnson and his family versus Master Shaw. That's the bad guy that basically has a dragon. And yeah, the Johnsons and all their people that they train with are mastering fire powers. Yeah. Let's see. Owen says, I actually just caught up on Firepower last week, and I've really enjoyed what I read. Very sad to see it go, but knowing Kirkman and Somni, it'll go out with a bang. I don't dislike Firepower, but it's not my favorite. I think it needed either more humor or just some sort of another sort of twist to the overall story. I felt that like Owen Johnson was just a little too close to a character like Iron Fist, except that he's got a family. But I just didn't feel like there was a lot of conflict there, you know? I just didn't feel like there was that much to deal with. It looks gorgeous. It does. I think Chris Somney is an incredible artist. You know, a 30-issue run, well, plus the original trade paperback that introduced everything, that's a decent run. Like that, you don't need to push everything to be ongoing. So you know what? Knowing that like it's building to like one big conclusion, that makes sense. That makes sense. Obviously, Robert is busy now with writing Void Rivals and sort of managing not just Skybound and, you know, all of his Walking Dead shows and stuff, but also all the Energon universe stuff that Skybound has inherited. So I'm sure he's got a lot of like business responsibilities. And then Somni, I know, has upcoming reprints of some good books. His acclaimed run on Black Widow is coming out as an artist edition. Jonna and the Impossible Monsters is getting a reprint. So Somni's a great artist. Oh, and you know what? He posted on Twitter this week that he just tried One Piece and he drew Monkey D. Luffy. So there's a Chris Somni version of Luffy if you look at his account on Twitter, which that was kind of fun to see in his style. It actually worked quite well. Quite well. New York Comic Con announced a bunch of their panels. I will be going to the New York Comic Con for one day. I'm going to go on Saturday. It would be fun to like go for a bunch of days if I had like a table or something, but I really don't know that I've got that much that I need to like sell or anything like that. So I don't know. Then again, I am super short on money, so maybe I should have gone. I don't know. But anyway, I'm going to attend for one day. But here's some of the panels they've got. I just listed the ones that were comic book related that were announced so far. So like on Thursday, there's going to be a live This Week in Marvel podcast about the Avengers 60th anniversary. On Friday, there's a My Hero Academia Season 6 OVA, so original video animation panel. On Friday, we've got a Spider-Man Gang War panel with the writers and artists that are doing books connected to that. There's a Saturday Marvel Fanfare panel with the editor-in-chief, C.B. Cebulski. He'll be talking about everything Marvel and all the good stuff they've got coming up. YOLO! Love you, Chris. Another Saturday panel, Marvel's Next Big Thing, and they'll have some of their big writers. Jonathan Hickman, Jerry Duggan, Jed McKay. Could give us some teasers or tidbits. That could be okay. I think this one looks fun. On Saturday, there will be a Scott Pilgrim Takes Off with Brian Lee O'Malley, as well as, I believe, the director of the show. So that could be a fun one. And then this panel, this last one, blew my mind. I never go to panels. I might try to go to this panel. Hold on. It is called Who Was Steve Ditko? And it will have some of the relatives of Steve Ditko, his surviving relatives, as well as comic artist Dean Haspiel. That could be really interesting to get to know who Steve Ditko was from his relatives. You know, such a reclusive artist. There's just not tons that we know, but I think that just sounds really interesting to me. That just sounds really interesting. So there's a good chance I might go to that one. Yeah. Yeah. With his relatives. That's true. I do have a big stack of sketches that I've done on the live stream, and I've got a few comics that I could sell, but we'll see. Let's see. The Scott Pilgrim anime releases the same day as the new Godzilla show, Monarch. The trailer for Monarch definitely looked good. We shall see. But the whole thing I'm really excited for with Godzilla is definitely Godzilla -1. That looks good. Darian, thank you. You're super short of money, less £2. Arigato gozaimasu. Really, really helps. Every bit helps right now. It's so frustrating to like just sort of realize that the bills stack up, and I'm like, I work a job, I've got the YouTube channel, and I don't know, you know, I feel like I've cut out a lot of the fat in my life. I don't get video games or, you know, Lego sets and toys. I get comics to review on the show. You know, we go out to eat a small amount. We don't go out that much. We try to eat healthy these days. It's like, how do I get in debt? But it's just life. YouTube doesn't pay as much as you might think. I'll break the illusion right now. Yeah, that one does look amazing. I need a CPA if I'm going to sort of write some of this stuff off. I keep my receipts. It's never quite been at a place where I need to write them off, like, to be honest. Yeah, I could write off the comics and probably a few of the expenses of doing the show. Doing like the itemized deductions hasn't really made sense yet, to be honest. So, yeah, but maybe someday. Maybe someday. The Boys has a comic villain that they're adding to the Gen V TV show. I thought that was interesting. I thought that they were just skipping this character, but I guess they've got a plan for him. Prime released a final Red Band trailer this week for Gen V. That's the spin-off for The Boys. I think Gen V looks pretty interesting. I like The Boys a lot. I hope Gen V is as good, but we'll see. Whoops. This actor is Derek Wilson, and he's going to play the Tech Knight seen here in the comics, who had Iron Man-esque armor.
Yo, thank you so much, Jacob. Very, very much appreciated. Very much appreciated. Sincerely. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. What else do we have for this news about Tech Knight? He notably was not super powered in the comics, and the TV show has definitely emphasized using Compound V to create supers and how Vought, the company, controls and makes that and everything. So Tech Knight is a little bit of an outlier in terms of superheroes for the world of the TV show. He will be playing an alumnus of Godolkin University, and that is where Vought will be training the next generation of supers. Does not look like it's a fun place to go. The third season, I loved the third season. I thought it was great. Gen V does look to be a very interesting look at a different part of the boys' universe. I hope so. So far, I think that the TV show is a lot more interesting than the comic. I think it's, because they're commenting on something different. When the comic was made, it was definitely satirizing superheroes and comics and that culture. The TV show is targeting capitalism and consumerism, which I do find a little more interesting, at least in the live action sense. Yeah, Tech Knight is sort of a mix between Batman and Iron Man. Absolutely. Yeah, it's probably Vought funded. There's a chance that maybe Tech Knight in this does take Compound V, and maybe that gives him the ability to use the machinery. I don't know. I can understand that. Yeah, the comic wasn't exactly for me either, but I do think that the show is good. It's got a good cast, and I honestly trust the showrunner on that a lot. He really impressed me with that show, Supernatural, that he created. He had a 5-year plan for it. He did it. That first 5-year run really told an interesting story. You could tell where he intended everything to end. It was just popular enough that it continued another 10 years without him. Wasn't necessarily bad, but those first 5 years were something special. He's a good showrunner. Garth Ennis does not seem to like superheroes, except for Superman. I was stunned by this. I guess some of this news had been out there before, but we found out a bunch more this week. Disney Plus is adapting an Osamu Tezuka manga as an anime series, but it's coming through Disney. What? Those are two usually very good things. Disney animation and Osamu Tezuka manga. You put them together, that seems like it's got a lot of potential. So Disney Plus Japan released this week some visuals and a teaser trailer for their anime adaptation of the nostalgia arc of Phoenix. Phoenix is a very important manga for Osamu Tezuka and for his fans. This is going to be a 4-episode story, and they're titling it Phoenix Eden 17. And I'm pretty sure this right here says Eden, no, and I don't know what this is. Maybe this is, I don't know what this this kanji is. I don't know. Somebody out there probably reads Japanese, but this part says Eden, if I'm reading it right. So there's more news about this. So it's going to debut very soon, folks. September 13th. Phoenix, maybe not everybody's heard of it, which would be understandable, but it was an unfinished manga that Tezuka-san returned to throughout his career. He had sort of early versions of it that he tried in the 50s. came back to it and like did it in earnest in the 60s, all the way up through his death in 1989. There were 12 completed arcs. And the cool thing is each arc is its own complete story. So even though Phoenix, he had more ideas to continue in this world, it's okay. You can still read any of the 12 arcs and you will get a complete story. So that's nice. That's something special about this. Nostalgia was the 8th arc. It is set in the future. And each of the arcs, for the most part, like the thematic similarity is people searching for a way to live on or a way to get immortality. That's sort of the idea of why it's called Phoenix. It's about rebirth. This specific arc, I've got like one image from it here. It was published in Tezuka-san made a manga called Calm that had a manga in it, and he started publishing this story in 1971. Then Calm basically went out of business, wasn't doing well. He continued it like several years later in Manga Shonen. That was a magazine, and it ran from 76 to 78. And Nostalgia is essentially about the rise and fall of humanity. So Phoenix is really good. I definitely recommend reading it. I recommend reading just about everything from Tezuka, to be honest. But Phoenix is, especially when he started it, it was really him starting to do more adult-focused stories. Yes, his art style is still sort of, I guess you could call it cartoony, but the subject matter, it was not always cartoony. His early stuff, like Kimba the White Lion and Astro Boy, yes. But as he got older, he basically formed the genre of Gekiga, and that was basically aimed at adults. So stuff like a Blackjack, the rogue surgeon that runs around the world solving crimes, Phoenix, Buddha, things like that. What was his? He made a book about Adolf Hitler too. I forget the name of it. Wow, thank you so much, Tom. Tom, that is so generous of you. I sincerely appreciate it. Couldn't come at a better time. That's really, really kind of you. Thank you so much for the support. I'll try to do my best to keep making good shows. I'll do everything I can. I'm pretty excited about the ones that I've got coming up. Thank you for helping that be possible, that I could share that with people. Mike, you've been supporting me almost since day one. I really appreciate it, man. I think you're an incredible artist. Great guy. Wow. You guys are going to make me get emotional, but thank you very much. Thank you, Larry. Medical debt be gone. That's what I'm working on, man. That's what I'm working on. That's really, really kind of you. That's really kind of you. Thank you. Thank you all. Oh my goodness. Guys, I hope it doesn't feel like I'm begging for this. This is really appreciated though. Thought I'd chip in. Do you think there'll ever be an animated adaptation of the original Mirage TMNT comics? I think it's almost inevitable that will happen someday. I read the IDW collection of them not too long ago, and it got me thinking about the idea of that. Just to be clear, there is a version of the Mirage Turtles in animation from the TV movie Turtles Forever. At the very end, the 80s Turtles and the 2003 Turtles do meet animated Mirage Turtles. So thank you. Thank you, Phil. Guys, it's really appreciated. Thank you very much for the support. I don't know what else to say. Like, I hope it's coming across as sincere, that this is appreciated. I should probably focus on giving you actual content with the show instead of just thanking people, but it means a lot to me. It really, really does. It really, really does. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I hope you'll all consider looking into Tezuka. And if you don't want to quite yet, I am planning on making an episode about him when I go to Japan. So there will be something coming fairly soon. Vault, not always a comics publisher that we get to talk about here. Definitely an indie.
but they have a book that got humongous orders. And there's a reason for that, but let's talk about it. Vault announced that their upcoming title, Unnatural Order, quote, dramatically outperformed on every level, exceeding 137,000 copies at the time of the issue's final order cutoff. 137,000 copies is always very, very healthy, no matter what era you're in. Here's the thing. This is why it did well. The book was sold to retailers for free, but cover priced $4.99 for customers. So basically, this was Vault taking a hit to get one of their books out there. They obviously must have a lot of faith in it because they're taking a financial hit on this. I guess you could say it's a little like when, say, Sony or Microsoft put out a console, they sell that at a loss to capture market share. Oh, wow. I love your show, so why not? Why not, indeed? Thank you. Thank you so much. You guys are competing, but you don't need to. I appreciate all of you. Seattle homies. Well, thank you. Hope you're enjoying the weather here. It's been pretty nice the last few days, in my opinion. Thank you, Ending Soonest. Very, very, very generous. I can't say enough nice things. Thank you. Thank you. Would I consider Tezuka's Phoenix to be equivalent to Mobius's Edina in that it's something somewhat mystical that they came back to over many years? Definitely. Definitely. But Phoenix definitely was something that was started first. And I think that Tezuka probably influenced a lot of artists, including Mobius on some level. I'm sure that Mobius was aware and had to see that stuff. Don't think I'll make it to the end tonight. Yeah, I've still got comics to review, but thank you, Dr. Schubelt. Not feeling that well. I'll catch the rest tomorrow. I wasn't feeling very good yesterday, so I think that there is something going around. Take care of yourself. Sorry that you're not feeling well, but thank you so much for the support. Means a lot. Means a lot. Let me jump back to Vault because I just wanted to mention who's making this. So the series, first of all, what's the story here? It follows a Roman soldier, a witch, a small band of heroes, and even a 21st century soldier, somebody from the modern day, as they join forces against the Druid to fight his evil magic overtaking the world. So it's set in the past, set well in the past, but features a team going up against a supernatural threat. It is written, you'll see here, by Christopher Yost. And he's written comics, wrote the X-Men Evolution cartoon, has written, I think, some MCU stuff. So very, very experienced with comics. And obviously, like, Vault must think that they've got something pretty special on their hands here. I'll probably be checking it out. If I can, if my store carries it, I'm definitely going to read this one. I'm almost done. I've got this and one other piece of news, and then I want to talk about some reviews this week. But this book looked interesting to me. TKO is publishing it. It's a graphic novel to benefit the World Central Kitchen. I'll explain. Jose Andres, if you're not familiar, is a celebrity chef, but he's also a humanitarian. He founded the World Central Kitchen. It's a nonprofit organization specifically designed to feed people all around the world after they've encountered a natural disaster. It was founded when Haiti went through a terrible disaster and people needed food. Jose Andres formed the World Central Kitchen to combat that. He's teaming up, like I said, with TKO to publish a nonfiction story about the work he has done going around the world, setting this up and feeding people. This guy has a lot of restaurants throughout the world. He's from Spain, lives, I believe, in DC, and has for quite a while.
Seems like a nice person. Seems like a lot of people appreciate him. Certainly doing great work. The World Central Kitchen is a really solid organization. Doesn't seem to have a lot of overhead. Seems to sincerely just be there to deliver meals to people after a disaster hits. That's a great cause. I think everybody can get behind that. This is going to be co-written by Steve Orlando, written tons of comics. Art by somebody I'm not familiar with, I have to admit, Alberto Ponticelli. Still, could be an interesting story for sure. And on top of that, TKO will donate $5 from every book they sell to the World's Central Kitchen. And they started things off by donating $100,000 to the World Central Kitchen when they kicked off this book. So the book isn't out yet, but you can pre-order it. It's called Feeding Dangerously. Feeding Dangerously. And so it's a nonfiction book, but I think I love nonfiction comics sometimes. It can be really exciting. They're going into dangerous areas, things where normal supply routes and stuff have broken down. So sounds interesting to me. Let's see. I've heard of him before. Great guy. Jose is a rock star, always about helping other people. I think that they were getting food to Ukrainian refugees last year. I believe that is correct. They go all over the world. I think he was giving out food somewhere during the pandemic. I can't remember where. But they've gone to like a lot of different countries. Like I say, originally Haiti, but I'm pretty sure that they've been to places like India and stuff and other places hit by tsunamis, earthquakes, flooding, natural disasters, basically, where people need to eat to survive. World Central Kitchen flies in, helps them out. Could be an interesting comic, and no matter what, you got to know that like $5 of the sale goes to the World Central Kitchen. That's a pretty nice incentive to like go like, hey, I helped a charity and I got an interesting story out of it. That's why I wanted to share it. I think it sounds interesting. I do. Last piece of news I have is Scott Snyder's new horror comic that fuses horror with westerns. And look at that. That is a gnarly cover, man. That is legit disturbing to me. So Scott Snyder and Dan Panosian, underrated artist, by the way, great artist. They created a 6-issue series called Canary. It was a horror western. It was originally done through Comixology Originals. Well, now this week, Dark Horse announced that they're going to create the print edition. I think it's very similar to what they basically did for Barnstormers. That was also a 6-issue Comixology original, now printed as 3 big, thick comics. Really, really big. So yeah, it's being reformatted into a 3-issue series, 56 pages of story. That's a good chunky book. That is nice. And by the way, I'll get to it in a sec. This is a big chunky book, Barnstormers. It was still only $4.99, which is basically what you pay for comics these days. I think it's a good value. Thank you, Dark Horse. The comic is about a cursed mine that causes people to go into murderous rages. Yes, people are picking up on sort of like Jonah Hex in there, and I see that too. I think the next Ari Aster film is horror western too. Oh, well, if so, I'm all in. That sounds great. Yeah, I know you're meant to think it's a cigar, but that ain't a cigar. It's pretty great. Dan Panosian has, a lot of detail, a lot of really nice hatching, a lot of nice shading, but also incredible fundamentals. Just really, really solid. Issue 1 is going to come out November 1st. So very soon. I'll be checking it out. I've been checking out a lot of the stuff Scott Snyder did with Comixology Originals. I think it felt like they, Comixology fell apart, but the deal that Scott got there, he always partnered with a really great artist and did stuff that you just weren't seeing anywhere else. A lot of horror, but also like romance and period pieces. The Dark Spaces Wildfire was like a heist.
a lot of different genres that he got to explore. And I got the sense that he was very passionate about that, like that he was getting the freedom to tell whatever kind of story he wanted. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. It is cool. You know, like kudos to him. You know what I was thinking about recently is just, when was the last time a Batman run was universally acclaimed? You know, a lot of people like, you know, Batman's always popular, but there's a lot of people that will be like, you know, complaining about it too. And I feel like Scott Snyder's run on Batman was pretty universally loved. I think a lot of people like that. He put a lot of work into this, and I think it paid off. That's fair, Kim Dog. Yep. Lisa Lyon was a bodybuilder, and I believe also an adult film actress. I'm not trying to be negative. I'm pretty sure that that's the truth. But she was noted as being Frank Miller's inspiration for Elektra's look, her visuals. And you can see it if you look up Lisa Lyon. So sad to hear that she passed away. Definitely. Sad. But I think that that's everything I had for news. Was there anything else? Nope. That's the end of the slideshow. So here's what I'll do. Hello. Let me add another camera here because I've got some comics that came out this week. I'd like to, you know what? I'm going to pause because there's one comic I want to talk about that I wasn't able to find a print version of, so I had to read it digitally. So I don't really have that to flip through and easily share with you. I don't have a good way to do that because it's on my phone, which I'm using as a camera. She was in Playboy. Fair enough. Okay, so maybe, yeah, I wasn't. I was just trying to be honest, and that's fine that she did that. That's fine. I always try Rick Remender's books. I think kind of similar to Scott Snyder. He tries things in different genres. I think he does some really exceptional creator-owned work and teams up with some great artists. I don't always connect on a deep level with everything, but I always give Rick Remender a chance because some of it I really, really love. And I picked up issue 2 of The Sacrificers. That's his new ongoing high fantasy series where everybody in like the realm has to give their firstborn child up as a sacrifice to the gods. And nobody really knows exactly what happens to them. And issue 2 was following a bunch of people on a journey and them all debating. You know, there were people that like had sort of very pious religious views that this was an honor. And there's other people that like came from nothing that were like convinced that nothing but bad could happen, that they were just going to be tossed in a volcano eventually. It's got artwork by Max Fiumara. Very good. Somebody here in the chat noted when we were looking at issue 1 that one of the characters, because this is a fantasy world, was basically a pigeon man. And he's, of course, being dragged away from home. But what do we know about pigeons? Well, pigeons can always find their way home, seemingly. Homing pigeon. And I think that there could be something to that because we're not getting to know a ton yet. We're still world building. But I do think that this is going to be an odyssey that takes this character on a journey. It ends with a twist. I will say that. It ends with the basically enslaved sacrificers arriving at a destination, and it's really not exactly what people were guessing. So I appreciate that. But it is an interesting idea to explore, the idea of sacrifice and what is that getting you? Is that truly getting you safety? Is that ever? Can you sacrifice a person? Like, you know, is that morally upstanding or not? It's interesting. Like I say, there's only been 2 issues, regular size, so there's a lot more to understand about this world. It's keeping me intrigued, and it's got good artwork. You need to have that good artwork if you're going to sort of tell a long-term story and, like, you know, slowly build
the characters in the world. So I need to at least be engaged with the artwork. I'm definitely engaged with that. So I do recommend it. I had to get it digitally because it was sold out at every comic store in my area. I was calling all of them and it was sold out. I ordered a physical copy from somewhere online, but it hasn't arrived yet. So I wanted to still talk about it this week and not be behind. And I'm glad I got it. Sacrificers issue 2, if you can find it. But Rick did say when I posted that I had trouble finding it, and he posted he was looking into rushing it into a second print that could be out within like basically a week or so. So he's aware that it's selling well. Good for him. Rick does good stuff. Let me turn on my camera and we will look at some of the comics that I did pick up this week. Let me add an extra camera here. That will do. I'll zoom in a little. Let's do it like that. There, perfect. Thank you for bearing with me as I switch around with that stuff. Sure. This was on top. Barnstormers, this is the final issue, and it is in fact about Barnstormers from sort of a turn of the century. This is a romance story, and it tricked me. It gave me an ending I wasn't expecting. But you know, one of the big draws on this, let me find a good example of it. One of the big draws is definitely the painted artwork by Tula Lotay. She's definitely got a unique style. And yeah, I mean, you either like it or you don't. But I like it, and I think it works very well for a romance. I think that the characters have that classic Hollywood look, you know, the golden age of Hollywood. It's in color here, but I could almost imagine this being in hazy black and white with, you know, Vaseline rubbed over the lens when the leading lady takes a look towards camera. It's got some nice action and stuff like that. Tula Lotay doesn't take any shortcuts when she's drawing things like these planes. You know, she's obviously looked at some reference and mapped out the perspective and stuff like that. So it is painted. So sometimes maybe possibly if I'm going to give it like a knock, maybe sometimes a little stiff between some panels, maybe. It works for me though. I think that like there's some really nice colors used in here. I don't think that the text is overwhelming it. There is a bunch. I think Snyder probably could pull back on that a little. I think as he gets, you know, even more experience, he may get more confidence to pull back on that, but it isn't overwhelming. These are like basically all thought balloons from a key character who's chasing some runaways. So yeah, basically there's 2 runaways that are being like blamed for murder of a rich guy who was just a monster, and you've got one of the Pinkertons is chasing them, and we're hearing most of this from his perspective. But he's not necessarily an evil guy, just to be clear. He's not. There are some bad people in this world. There really are. But there's some nice twists and turns. I thought that Barnstormers was definitely nice. I'm always looking for something a little different in comics. I do like superheroes, but I also like different types of stories at this point. And this hit the spot. I liked it. This was fun. I don't love the artwork in this, but I love how whimsical and light this is. This is a manga that was produced in Japan and has now been brought over here. DC licensed their characters, and they did like 3 manga recently. They did Batman Justice Buster, which is some sort of Batman story. They did a Joker story where Batman has been turned into a baby and Joker raises him. I don't know what that's about yet, but I got this one where Superman basically takes time off during his lunch breaks to fly to Japan and try new food. Very simple, very, very whimsical, low stakes, but it is kind of funny. Sometimes you get to see little cameos by his Justice League or Daily Planet co-workers, but mostly Superman just runs over to Japan and tries new things, and he just talks about it like it's panel by panel. Let me get to one. He's like, okay, so he's ordered something new to himself. Japanese grilled chicken. I didn't know they made them this way. What is this? This is like no chicken I know. And his heat vision goes off because he's so excited and stuff like that. The house specialty, breast meat and thigh meat skewers, all covered in sauce. You know, it's he's like looking at it and he talks about every aspect of it. He's like, oh, you know, like this is crunchy. Oh, this has an umami flavor. It's just constantly him trying things that he didn't anticipate trying. I don't know how to describe it. Here's where the artwork excels. Not really Superman. I would say that, like, you know, it's not my favorite art for people, but when he gets a meal, and I'm trying to find an example of like a page with a meal. Yeah, it's pretty well detailed. An ultra deluxe pork bowl. You did it, Clark. It does not build up to anything. He just tries meals with different people. Like he takes Batman with him to look at Batman flying on Superman's back, like riding him like a horse. And Superman hovering like an inch or two above the ground. It tends to be pretty funny. Superman will often say things like, I'm super surprised, or I find this super delicious. It doesn't make a lot of sense per se. It's pretty goofy. There's an example of like food done in pretty loving detail. And they just talk about every aspect of it, from like its texture to its side flavorings to the feeling that you get when you eat it. It's funny. I don't know if I can give this like a strong recommendation. Like, I think this is great literature. I found this charming and different. It worked for me. It may work for you. I'm very curious about the Joker one where he raises Batman as a baby. I don't know what to make out of that. He's really into it. Yeah. And you know what? Let me try to read. This is easy. This says Superman. No, so it's Superman's, basically implying ownership. Superman's Hitori. I think it says Hitori. If I'm reading that right, Hitori is, I think, like solo or alone. And then I can tell that this is the same kanji, and it says meshi, which I know means basically meal. It can mean like a rice meal, but I think it means Superman's solo meal. I think. Anyway, but I don't know for sure. My Japanese is terrible, but I'm practicing so that I hopefully can speak a little bit when I get there and get around a little better than I've done before. Yo, this one I've recommended before. I think that this is a great Fantastic Four run. You don't need to know Fantastic Four before. You could literally jump in here with issue 11. It tends to be one, sometimes 2-page stories. Issue. Excuse me. Written by Ryan North. Some more than competent artwork by Iban Coello. Each one tends to be a sci-fi mystery, basically, because the Fantastic Four are explorers. In this one, Ben Grimm finds himself falling with his house in like this bottomless pit. But every time he notes that something doesn't quite seem to be working right, it corrects itself. That's suspicious. There's also a dog with him, like a stray that people are like, oh, you should adopt him. And he's like, no, because, you know, the thing is gruff. But the dog is never freaked out by any of this. Anyway, this all involves the Thing meeting Miracle Man. Don't get too excited. I don't mean Miracle Man as in Marvel Man. We're talking about this old character from the 60s.
He's like a hypnotist, basically. He's hypnotized Ben Grimm, but Ben isn't a dummy. He uses the fact that the dog isn't reacting properly to reason out what's happening and that it's all an illusion. It's a really cool story. I'm not going to give everything about it away. There's some more to all of this. It's great just seeing Ryan North sets up a mystery in this and has the thing reason out bit by bit what could be wrong and testing things. It's fun. Yes. This is Ben Grimm using his intelligence instead of pretending to be a dope. Ben Grimm was, he went to college with Reed Richards. He was a test pilot. There's a lot of things to know that, like, the thing is not a dummy. He talks tough because he grew up, basically on the rough streets of Brooklyn or something. But it's nice to see him show other sides to himself. And this shows several other sides. So what I like about this arc is they're finding new ways to use the powers. They're exploring the different aspects of the personality, and they're usually involving some sort of sci-fi mystery to solve every issue, as compared to building it up to just like, we got to fight Galactus times 10. Maybe someday they'll get there, but yeah. Oh, the Bronx, excuse me. That's right. Not Brooklyn, the Bronx. It's good. It's a really good run on Fantastic Four. I recommend jumping into it. Blade was okay. I don't give this like a super big shout out, but it features some really nice art by Elena Casagrande that tends to be really good when there's like fight scenes. Let me see. In this one, Blade is tracking down an old ally that specializes in magical weapons because he's, basically woken up some mother demon. Okay. There we go. Yeah, but here's an example of sort of an action scene. This helicopter finds them. You've got Blade jumping out of the way. He's shooting at them. It walks us through. Here's an example of the DeLuca effect, right? We've got several blades on there, but we don't read that as 4 blades in the helicopter. We read it as one blade moving through the helicopter, taking everyone out. I thought that was clever. That's not the only example of the DeLuca effect we're going to go over. Yeah, it looks nice. It introduces some interesting ideas. I liked that Blade just got shot to hell and fell out of this huge high-rise window, but his powers allow him to survive that. I do like that. It puts him on the back foot. There's some stuff to like. I don't love it, but I like it. It's okay. I think I might be done reading Batman for now. I don't love this Gotham war. I talked about it last week. Batman and Catwoman are going to war because Catwoman is training henchmen to be cat burglars, and they won't kill, blah, blah, blah. And they've brought down violent crime. That's been acknowledged as a fact. But Batman is no, crime is crime, and I won't allow it. The one thing you can like about this is it's fantastic artwork by Jorge Jimenez. Look, there's nothing bad to complain about there. Even these talking head scenes, you see the steam and the rain bouncing off. You see the gruff look. You've got interesting angles. You've got good shading. There's a lot to like about this. Whoa, thank you, Larry. Random question. You've mentioned being a fan of White Zombie before, so I'm curious if you're a fan of other bands on the heavy side, like Tool, Nine Inch Nails, or Meshuggah. Love the TMNT Nine Inch Nails score. I like Tool and Nine Inch Nails. I can't claim to be a massive fan, but I like them. Yeah, I'll listen to that stuff here and there. I haven't seen them in person. It's funny, this is written by Chip Zdarsky, and everything I read his initial Daredevil arc and thought it was good. I love Chip Zdarsky's work at places like Image. I think that
Public Domain is a fantastic book. I liked where this book started. I'm really not into this arc of Batman being up against all of his allies because they're like, wait, Catwoman's system works. There's less violent crime. And he's like, no crime should be allowed. And I'm like, shouldn't Batman like be smart enough to see that like maybe this is working? Here's the problem. It introduces questions that don't work well if you look at superhero stuff too realistically. You have to have like the realism can only go so far. You can have real emotions and real stakes with lives, but if you actually look at how would this impact society, like how could this work on a sociological level, it does fall apart usually. There's a reason we don't have Batman in the real world. There is. So in this, Batman's argument is that all of these people will like still be committing crimes and he's going to put them in jail. And then like Robin is like, once they get out, they'll just go back to their old violent ways. And I stopped and I thought like, wait, so does that mean that like they just don't believe that any of these criminals will ever be rehabilitated in prison? Because if that's truly what they believe, Bruce Wayne should be giving some of his billions of dollars to the prison system to have better funding in Gotham anyway for rehabilitation and education. And then I started thinking like, okay, so like all of these henchmen guys are so dumb that they'll always go back to crime. Does that mean Batman just likes beating up dumb people? This is a fair point that Ouroboros Snake has. Zur is definitely influencing him. Yeah. Batman is at like his physical and mental sort of limits these days. He's been through a lot in the last few arcs, and he is talking to his backup personality of Zur-Anar, who's like a really hardcore Batman. So it's probably like that's going to be their out, is that eventually, eventually I think all the criminals are probably going to team up and without their henchmen because they don't like the way that things are going without the henchmen, and probably Batman, Catwoman, and all the rest will team up, and he'll have to get over his Zur-Anar stuff. It's like I can guess where this has to go logically. This has to go there. I did like this. Like I say, the highlight is Jorge Jimenez's art. I liked his versions of all of these villains meeting. Look at how, like, has Firefly ever looked that intimidating with that armor? It's a different take on, what do you call it? Scarecrow. Professor Pig looks creepy as hell. It looks good. But, we can see that they're gathering. They don't like that they can't get their henchmen and stuff. So they're going to work together. So it's like we already kind of know that, like, eventually the good guys have to work together against something else, right? Well, this is what they're going to have to work against. Like, all the criminals are going to team up without henchmen and create a bigger threat. And we're going to, like, have Batman, I guess, get, like, forgiven because he was being influenced by Zur-Anar. That doesn't work for me. I don't think the story like gives the rest of the characters plausible logic. It's like Nightwing and Tim Drake and stuff would be like, oh, if we truly believe that every criminal we arrest is going to get back out on the streets and become a henchman again, well, then that's something that they could solve. These are smart guys, and Batman has a lot of money. And I admit, like, probably there's plenty of people that do go to jail and go back and commit another crime. But are we supposed to, as people, like, believe that nobody gets rehabilitated, nobody learns their lesson? That's too bleak for me. So I don't think it should even address that. It's just sometimes bad guys have henchmen. But if we need to, like, think out, like, what happens in this world with henchmen and, like, why are they going to come at, like, to blows over, like, what happens to them? I don't know. It doesn't really work for me. It doesn't feel very realistic. But that's just me. Okay, well that's some continuity I guess I didn't know. Batman does not have a lot of money due to Joker War. At the same time, that's something that like any writer could address. You know, like he still has some money obviously to do what he does. And he has like a nice apartment in this that looks luxurious. So he's got some money. I don't know. Here's one I really liked, and I wasn't sure that I would, but I really liked it, folks. Again, I got to call out that this has some gorgeous art, really reminiscent of somebody like Chris Somney, or if we're going back even further, Alex Toth. Really great fundamentals by, what is it, Leonardo Romero? It is Leonardo Romero. Story by Kelly Thompson. Issue 1 of Birds of Prey. And basically, it starts with Dinah Lance, Black Canary, has to form a new team to rescue her adopted sister, Sin, from something or other. And for some reason, she has some agreement not to work with Batgirl this time. So she needs to create, like, not Barbara Gordon, okay? So she goes out and she recruits some people that she otherwise, you know, like wouldn't necessarily work with, but she needs to create like a really solid team. She gets the Cassandra Cain Batgirl, badass. Look at that. I told you there'd be another example of the DeLuca effect. Let me change the angle. Look at that. Look at this 2-page spread using the DeLuca effect. Black Canary comes in and fights these ninjas, and the eye is guided across the screen. Batgirl is coming in from this way, we eventually see, and they get back to back, and then they spin around, and they each come into the foreground fighting. That's a complex move to guide the eye. I think it works pretty darn well. It works well enough that I was patient enough to pause and look at it. I think it looks nice. I think it looks really nice. I like this artwork. It's not the same kind of detailed artwork that I was, or like painting that I was showing you in Barnstormers. But it has really great fundamentals. Like, look at, I'm going to jump back to a more close-up view. That's a great panel. You got to have stuff like that in superhero comics. You can't get away with not having stuff like that. But you also have to like read the character's emotions, right? This isn't Black Canary with the same face in every panel, but it is a consistent look at her, you know? That's not like traced off of some actress and then like a different actress for another panel. You know, her hair and her eyes and her makeup are consistent, her facial features. A lot of artists, especially in comics, face this trap. You know, you draw in a certain style and you're drawing kind of fast. A lot of your characters are going to look a little similar. That's some of your style. You have to find some shortcuts and be consistent with them. And things like hair and costume is definitely one of them. But I think that this Leonardo Romero is really good. I love this. She adds Big Barda. And Big Barda is very much the unintentional, what would you call it? When somebody's the humor in something, you call that, there's a role for that. And I'm forgetting the term. It's not like the joke's on her either. She just talks in a funny way. She calls, like, you know, Cassandra Cain Little Bat, and I don't know. Comic relief. Thank you, Space Ranger. It was just coming to me. I was looking for comic relief. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, not quite this. The straight man that is the comic relief. We're playing off of like how serious she is, but she also loves battle. For instance, I'll give you an example. Batgirl grabs a chandelier, swings around, kicks some bad guys, right? And Big Barda barrels in and says, "The chandelier, a classic, Small Bat. I love it." She's all about battle and stuff. Okay, so we've got Black Canary, Batgirl, Big Barda, very different character, adding Big Barda into the mix, not like, you know, the typical ninja person. So I think that she's a really good fit. And then we get a character that I honestly don't know as much about. Zealot. Hey, we merged in the Wildstorm universe. I remember reading Zealot in Wildcats back in the day. I don't remember a whole lot about her other than that she was like a ninja, basically. I love this new samurai look for her, which I think she's had for a little while, but I love how clean it is. You know, that's not an overly complex costume, but it does have accents and detail that like help it read like as both an outline, I would say, but also look visually interesting to see it in detail like that. So I like these sort of establishing shot panels of the characters. I think there was one for Big Barda too, right? No, I guess there wasn't quite the same one. And then there's one more person that they decide to hire, Harley Quinn. And you're like, why would they take on Harley Quinn? Well, they actually give it some really good thought, because this is her first reaction. Absolutely not. Batgirl suggests it. She's like, I've got an idea for one more person, Harley Quinn. She's like, absolutely not. She goes, can I tell you a story? You may. And it's basically that Harley Quinn is very unpredictable, and that is the advantage. So like they had a fight, and Harley didn't do any of the things Batgirl would expect. Like she didn't grab, a frying pan as a weapon. She grabbed a fish and attacked her with a fish. She just didn't expect it, and it threw everything off. Batgirl had a tough time fighting Harley Quinn because she's so unpredictable, and that's a good part. But I also love that after she's told this story that we get to see, like everyone else, you have to understand that this Batgirl doesn't talk a lot. So they're like, and it goes, small bat, that was hardly a story. You barely spoke. That's what I mean about like, Big Barda being kind of funny in this. And then later she's like, do not feel bad. Do not feel sad, small bat. Stories are not your strength, but you have many other strengths, such as putting men in comas and being very quiet. It's pretty funny, right? I think it is. So we've got a team that I think has actual conflict and some different skills. A former sort of villain, and like a super strong, warrior. It helps because these are all sort of like ninja type people. These are all sort of Batman people. You need to add some other stuff. And I think that the Big Barda and Zealot really help give it a different dynamic than I was expecting. And like I say, I know I'm talking about this longer than I do for some, but I was really impressed with some of this artwork. Look, again, that is a really impressive 2-page spread. Some great perspective on the building and the environment. Some great reactions of like the ninjas getting kicked and beaten up, but like everybody, you think it's easy to draw this many people and have them all the right proportions and perspective? It would be so easy to draw one of these just a little too big, and it just ruins everything. So not what I was expecting. I think I'm really into this. This was definitely a highlight of the week. Shazam issue 3. Can you tell that I'm picking a lot of these up because of the art? Look, it's Dan Mora, folks. But it is important to note that this is Mark Waid, and Mark Waid is a great fit for a classic, noble superhero like Captain Marvel / Shazam, which they just called the Captain now. But that's some really great art. I can just look at that art and like really be captivated by it. That's just one example. I don't know. It's dynamic. Look at this. This is the Captain carrying a bus of guerrilla refugees back to Gorilla City. Look at the detail on that city, though. That's great. And then yet, like, super expressive face, too. Not afraid to go cartoony. Kind of reminds me of really good manga, where you can have really detailed environments. You can have really great posing and stuff like that. And then sometimes you just also have to have
really expressive to the point of almost cartoony faces. But like, I really liked how he drew gorillas and machinery. It's a lot of different skills. Story's okay. It's fine. Basically, at this point, a bunch of the gods that have given the captain his powers feel that he's exerted too much control, and they're each taking a turn trying to control him and make him more like them. I don't know to what end yet, but it's fine. It's fine. It's Billy Batson trying to confirm who he really is at his core. That's fine. That's fair, but it's gorgeous to look at. I'd buy this just for the art. Last thing I picked up, I also really liked because this was very funny. Fire and Ice, Welcome to Smallville. The art inside, slightly more cartoony than everything else we looked at. Natacha Bustos? Yeah, Natacha Bustos drawing. Story by Joanne Starer, who has written a bunch of comics that I've liked recently, including Sirens of the City with Carrie Randolph, and The Gimmick, which is a wrestling comic. Look, here's the premise. Fire and Ice have never been like top tier superheroes, but they were on a version of the Justice League. At this point, they're also best friends, which is kind of cool. Superman has decided that they're not doing an exceptional job, so he's sent them to Smallville to protect Smallville. But Fire really wants to make a name for herself and prove that she's still awesome. Ice is definitely more easygoing and is just a loyal best friend. And they set up in a, what do you call it? Like a salon. They rent a salon. It's all I can say is it's very funny. Some of the things Fire does to get noticed are very dated, even though she thinks she's hip and cool. For instance, she has like the robot assistant make like a video online, and then she's like, do the dance I taught you. It's good for views. And it ends with them, like, I guess, flossing, which is just so dated. But like, I think she thinks it's cool and hip. That was funny. Yeah, it's got a lot of conflict between these two because they've got different ways that they want to prove that they are ready to be big superheroes. We've got a little King Shark action in it. I thought that this was a very funny book. So, out of everything that came out this week, what would I recommend the most? The Sacrificers issue 2 by Rick Remender and Max Fiumara. Birds of Prey number 1 and Fantastic Four number 11. Those are all really top tier. And a lot of these others had some great art, made it fun, or were like just sort of whimsical, but I know may not appeal to everybody. But it was a blast to read everything that came out this week. I thought it was a really strong week, to be honest. You guys think I'm missing anything major? Always curious to see if you think that there's something I'm overlooking. But I was really impressed with everything that came out this week. For the most part, it was a strong week. No question. Sorry, I'm looking at like my cords and stuff. I'm going to plug my phone in so that it's charged for next week. I'm just trying to find the end of the cord. I'm glad we're coming to a point where flossing is finally outdated. I'll have to see if my local had this looks good. It is good. Fire and Ice is really good. You should floss dance for views. I'm pretty sure that they would skyrocket down. We did talk about that in the news section. Absolutely. Too angry for your liking? That's fair, but I think that we also need a starting point for the character to evolve towards. So, yeah. Oh, I did pick up Godzilla Here There Be Dragons. I didn't have time to read it yet. That's all. Darn. Also, I picked up issue 4, the final issue of Ed Piskor's Red Room, but I'm very ready for that to be done. I want Ed to do something else. I'm just ready for it. I don't know what I said, but I think I mean plummet. Sonic flossed? He did? Way to go, Sonic. I had no idea. No idea. Anything else that I missed? Did you hear the rumor about a Jack and Dexter live action movie? It's a video game, isn't it? Shoulder shimmy? What's that? Just... I don't know how to shoulder shimmy. Whoa! Almost at the end, I get another donation. The Japan by Food channel has vids on manga-themed food places that look fun. Thank you. I will look that up. That sounds sincerely interesting. Japan by Food. Got it. I will look that up. I will look that up. Thank you for the donation and for the suggestion. I'm pretty excited to go to Japan. Just wish the finances were in better shape so that I could buy stuff there. I don't think I'm going to be buying a lot. I think that the money is just going to go to living expenses, and I'm just going to try to be in the moment and experience things. I think that that's what I'm going to try to focus on. Thank you. Long days and pleasant nights, comic slinger. Thank you. Well, thanks everybody. Yeah, there were some good comics this week. Oh boy, will I ever do an episode on Marvel or Sonichu? Yeah, that's a fair question. I've considered both. I'll say super unlikely for me to do Sonichu. And I think I've explained that before, is that I know Chris Chan is a lol cow. I find him very annoying too, but also, he's on the spectrum and he took time to create a comic. I don't want to pick on that. That still took effort. It's not a comic that I like, doing self-insert stuff, but I don't want to joke about it. And I don't have anything otherwise that I could really say about it. There's nothing we can really learn in terms of story structure or something like that. So I would not talk about Sonichu. That to me would be punching down. That's what it would be. Marvel, I would consider. It's so bad. It's such a bad comic. But possibly I might talk about it within the context of talking about what was going on with Marvel's leadership, Marvel Comics leadership at the time, because boy, was Marvel a terrible idea. Just terrible. Boy, that would be an interesting challenge. A 24-hour stream. If I could ever find a charity that I could sort of raise money for, I might consider that. Yes, I'm going to New York Comic Con next month for Saturday. I will definitely do an episode about Next Wave Agents of Hate at some point. I really like that comic, so I would definitely do that. I've heard of Oishinbo, but I have not read it. But thank you for the recommendation. Leaving for Japan in 9 days. Little less, I guess. 9 days. Excited. I have heard about what Chris Chan has done, and I agree that he deserves to be condemned. But I feel like if I was criticizing his art, I'd still be punching down at that point. And I don't want to talk about how disgusting the more recent news with him is. I just kills me. I just can't. I don't know. I don't have an angle on it. No, I don't know Delicious in Dungeon. I've not heard about that one, I'm afraid. Yeah, I don't think I would be able to sustain a drama channel even if I gave it a shot, to be honest. Yeah, I've talked about Bill Sienkiewicz in let's see, I did an episode about Legion, I believe, and I talked about him and his New Mutants, and I think I talked about him more in another episode, because I feel like I talked about his work on Moon Knight. Oh, I talked about Moon Knight, so I talked about Sienkiewicz a little in there. I would love to do a dedicated episode. I might do it more as an interview episode, to be honest. That would be interesting to me.
I love Bill Sienkiewicz. I love it. I'm pretty sure it's November. Somewhere in November is when Invincible season 2 starts. Pretty sure. Anyway. Thank you. I know that I do say Sienkiewicz right, but I've also gotten names wrong, folks. Sometimes I very confidently have said words and names because I've read them and I've come up with a reading for that in my head and assumed that that was correct without double checking. So I know I have made episodes in the past. It pains me. But the episode I did on Mobius, I kept saying Moibius. I'm sorry. I didn't know any better. I just didn't know. I think that my criticism and insight, I still stand behind, but it is painful to know that I was mispronouncing his name. I know in my episode about Dylan Dog, I pronounced Jalo wrong. So frustrating. I sometimes I just do that. Anyway. But I think that this is a good time to wrap things up because it's been a little over 2 hours. And I got to have some dinner. And I'm working very hard on the next Comic Tropes episode. I'm really excited to share it with you. It's about an artist. It's just really incredible. Had an interesting career and draws unlike anybody else. Although he's influenced a bunch of people, and I understand his influences. But yeah, it's an interesting artist that I'm excited to. Thank you, everybody, for the kind words and conversation. If you have time to hit like and subscribe, that means a lot to me. It really helps this channel, helps the Comic Tropes channel too. So maybe you'll consider that. But in the meantime, thank you for the super chats and the conversation. And I'm very excited for doing another one of these next week and hopefully getting that Comic Tropes out to you ASAP. Keep reading comics, everybody. Bye.